It started with a simple game. At least, that's what I thought it was at first. A group of my wife's friends had been over at our place for a few days. It wasn't unusual for them to come over. Eliza and I had been married for 3 years, and I knew that she enjoyed spending time with her friends. They were good people, or so I thought. I never saw any reason to be suspicious. But that night, something felt different. I could feel it in the air. The energy in the room was heavier, more charged, like something was about to go wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I had been in the kitchen, cooking dinner while Eliza and her friends hung out in the living room, chatting and laughing, as usual. I'd heard the occasional burst of laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the familiar sound of Eliza's voice. Nothing unusual, right? At least, that's what I told myself. Then, the phone rang. It was from my boss, just a quick work-related question, nothing major. I had been on the phone for less than 5 minutes when I heard it. Do it. The words were clear. So clear that I had no doubt they were meant for me. I froze in place. I turned my head slowly, just enough to see Eliza standing there in the doorway, her face flushed and her eyes wide with something. Almost like guilt. Did you just say something? I asked, trying to hide the unease in my voice. I hadn't realized how tense my shoulders had become. She hesitated for a second, her gaze darting nervously around the room. It's nothing, she muttered, quickly walking past me. But I could tell something was off. I shook it off. Maybe I was imagining things. I finished the call, but when I walked back into the living room, it was like the atmosphere had shifted. There was a tension hanging in the air now, something I couldn't shake. I sat down at the edge of the couch, trying to act casual, but my mind was racing. I'd caught a glimpse of something strange, something about the way Eliza was looking at me, and I wasn't the only one who noticed. Her friend Casey had a smirk on her face, and she kept glancing at Eliza, then back at me. All right, time for a game, Casey said, breaking the silence in the room. She was always the one who pushed things too far, the one who wanted to see how far people would go. Okay, Eliza said with a nervous laugh, clearly trying to play it off. What's the game? You'll see, Casey replied. And just like that, it began. I didn't know it yet, but this game wasn't like anything I'd ever imagined. It wasn't going to be a harmless dare or a stupid bet. It was something much darker, a test that I didn't even realize I had been chosen for. Here's the deal, Casey said, her voice taking on a tone of authority that I hadn't heard before. Eliza, you're the one who has to do it. You've got to push him. I looked at Eliza, confused. Push me? What did that even mean? What kind of game were they playing? Eliza looked at me, and for the first time that evening, I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Uncertainty, maybe even fear. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. It was like she didn't know how to respond. Come on, Casey urged, her voice mocking now. It's just a push. Let's see if he really cares. Just do it. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. This was no ordinary game, and I was starting to understand that I was the pawn in someone else's sick joke. But I didn't know what to do. I'm serious, Casey said, her voice becoming more insistent. Push him. I want to see what happens. I turned to Eliza, trying to get her attention. What is this? I asked, my voice strained. But she wasn't looking at me anymore. Her eyes were fixed on the floor, and she was shaking, almost imperceptibly. Just do it, Casey repeated, almost like an order. There was no hesitation now. Eliza stood up. It wasn't a playful nudge or some friendly push to get a laugh. This was different. The way she moved toward me felt deliberate, like she was caught in something she didn't want to be a part of, but couldn't break free from. And then, in a moment that felt like it lasted forever, she did it. She pushed me. It wasn't hard, but it was enough. It was enough to make me stumble back, catching myself just in time to avoid falling. But that wasn't what shook me. It was the look in her eyes. The way she looked at me, like she was waiting for something to happen. I felt my heart race. What the hell, Eliza? I asked, barely able to process what had just happened. She didn't respond. She just stood there, staring at me, waiting. And in that moment, I realized the truth. This wasn't a game anymore. This wasn't a harmless dare. This was a test. A test of my patience, of my love for her, of how far I would go before I finally walked away. I didn't know what to do. My chest felt tight, like the walls were closing in on me. But I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't the woman I married. The woman I married would never have done this. The woman I married would have stood by me, would have told her friends that enough was enough. But Eliza didn't do that. She just stood there, as if waiting for me to react. And that's when I realized something that made my stomach drop. Whatever game they were playing, I was no longer a part of it. I was just the fool. I stood up, my voice shaking with anger. What is this, Eliza? Are you seriously doing this for them? Are you really going to let them do this to us? But she didn't say a word. And in that silence, everything changed. I stood there, feeling like the ground had been ripped out from beneath me. Eliza didn't say anything. She didn't apologize. She didn't even look remorseful. It was as if I wasn't even there anymore, like I was just another obstacle in her way. The silence between us was suffocating. Casey and the other friends just watched, all of them silent now. It was as if they were waiting for something to happen. I wanted to scream at them, to tell them what kind of cruel joke they were playing. But most of all, I wanted to understand what had happened to my wife. Do you think this is funny? I finally asked, my voice hoarse. Do you think this is some kind of joke? Eliza looked at me, but it wasn't the look of someone who had just pushed their spouse as a joke. No, it was something else entirely. There was this coldness in her eyes, a detachment that I hadn't seen before. It was like she had already made her choice, like she was playing a part in some script that I wasn't allowed to read. I don't know what you want me to say, she murmured, her voice almost too quiet to hear. I stared at her, feeling a wave of disbelief wash over me. This wasn't my wife. My wife would have never stood there, acting like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just humiliated me in front of her friends. She would have never let herself be pushed into doing something like this. But here she was, standing in front of me, looking like a stranger. I turned to Casey, my anger bubbling up. And you, Casey, what kind of game is this? What are you trying to prove? But Casey didn't look guilty. She didn't look ashamed. Instead, she smiled. A small, almost smug smile that made my blood run cold. It's just a game, calm down, she said, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. You're overreacting. We just wanted to see if you'd leave. We didn't think you'd actually walk away. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We just wanted to see if you'd leave. I felt a surge of rage mixed with confusion. Were they really testing me? Were they really seeing how far they could push me before I cracked? I looked back at Eliza, my chest tightening. This wasn't the person I had married. This wasn't the woman I trusted with my heart. The woman I loved wouldn't stand by and let her friends tear me down like this. She would have put a stop to it, would have told them that it was enough. But instead, she just stood there, silent. A sinking feeling settled in my stomach. I had to get out. I had to leave. The house that had once felt like a home now felt like a prison, and I was trapped inside it with no way out. But leaving wasn't that simple. Could I walk away from the woman I had built my life with? Could I really just turn my back on her, knowing that this was the person she had become? I didn't know. I didn't know if I could, but I also didn't know how I could stay. Casey must have seen the doubt in my eyes because she pressed on. You should leave, she said, her tone almost taunting. That's what you're going to do, right? You're just going to walk out and leave her. It's what I would do. Her words stung, but they weren't what really hit me. What really hit me was the way Eliza didn't even react. She didn't tell Casey to shut up. She didn't defend me. She didn't do anything. And in that moment, I realized something I wasn't ready to admit to myself. Eliza had already made her choice. She had already chosen them over me. I turned on my heel and walked out of the room. The sounds of their voices faded as I made my way toward the door. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was that I had to get out. I couldn't be there anymore. As I grabbed my jacket and opened the door, I heard Eliza's voice behind me. Wait, she called out. Her voice sounded desperate, but it was too late. The damage had been done. I stepped out into the cold night air, feeling the weight of everything crashing down on me. My breath came in shallow gasps as I walked aimlessly down the street. I had no destination. I had no plan. All I had were the words echoing in my head. They just wanted to see if you'd leave. And in that moment, I realized the truth. I wasn't just walking away from Eliza. I was walking away from everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and the life we had built together. But what hurt the most was that I didn't even know if she cared. I walked through the cold night without a destination. My thoughts were a tangled mess, each step heavier than the last. The further I got from the house, the more I realized that what had just happened wasn't just a momentary lapse in judgment. It wasn't just a careless mistake. No, this was something much deeper, something that had been brewing for a while, and I had ignored the signs. The streetlights flickered above me, casting long shadows on the sidewalk. I didn't want to think about Eliza, not right now. The sting of her indifference was still too raw. The way she had just stood there, as if I was some stranger who didn't matter. It burned. As I turned the corner, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, hoping it was someone else, anyone but her. But it was Eliza. Her name flashed on the screen, and I froze. I stared at the message for a moment before I opened it. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Please, we need to talk. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't know what to type. What was there left to say? How could I respond to something like that? How could she be sorry now, after everything? I didn't reply. I couldn't. But my phone buzzed again. Eliza, you know I didn't want to hurt you. I was pressured. It's not what you think. Please just let me explain. I gripped my phone tightly, anger surging through me. Pressure? Was she really blaming her friends for this? Blaming them for what she had done? I knew the answer. She didn't want to take responsibility for what had happened. She wanted me to believe that it was just some joke, some twisted game. But I wasn't that naive. The message was clear. I wasn't the one she valued. Her friends, their approval, that was her priority. With a shaky hand, I turned my phone off. I didn't want to hear any more excuses. The choice had been made, and I had seen it for what it was. Eliza had chosen them. She had chosen to humiliate me, and in that moment, I knew everything had changed. There was no coming back from this. I had to make a choice too. Would I go back, hoping that things could somehow go back to normal? Or would I walk away, leaving her, and everything I thought we had behind? I didn't have an answer yet, but I knew one thing. I couldn't keep going like this. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was Eliza's face, the cold, indifferent look she had given me when I walked away. It felt like a betrayal so deep, it was almost physical. The city outside my apartment window was quiet, but inside my head, the noise was deafening. By the time the sun came up, I knew I had to confront her. I wasn't sure what I wanted. Answers, closure, or just to hear her say that she regretted what happened. But I had to know. I had to face her. I had to figure out if the woman I thought I knew was really gone, or if there was still a chance to salvage something from the wreckage. I didn't text her. I didn't call her. I simply grabbed my coat and left. I wasn't going to go back to the house. No, I needed distance from that place, from everything that had happened. But I did know one thing. She would come looking for me. She always did. It wasn't long before my phone rang again. Eliza's name flashed across the screen once more. My hand hesitated, but I knew I couldn't ignore it any longer. I answered. "Where are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. She sounded vulnerable, and for a split second, I almost wanted to let everything go. Almost. "I'm not coming back," I said, my voice steady, but the words still stung as I spoke them. "I can't just forget what happened, Eliza. You crossed a line. You pushed me in a way I never thought you would." There was silence on the other end. It wasn't the silence of someone thinking carefully. It was the silence of someone trying to hold back tears. "I didn't want it to happen like this," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was pressured, okay? It was stupid. I didn't know how to stop it." I could hear her trying to explain herself, but the more she spoke, the less I believed her. Pressure? She couldn't have been that naive. She could have said no. She could have walked away from the group. But she didn't. She didn't even try. "You didn't know how to stop it?" I repeated, disbelief creeping into my voice. "You didn't even try. You didn't defend me, Eliza. You didn't even care that I was being humiliated right in front of you." "I do care," she almost shouted, her voice cracking. "You don't get it, do you? I've made a mistake. A huge one. And now I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do to make you understand." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to hear the sincerity in her words. But it felt like there was something more at play here, something I wasn't seeing. I wasn't sure if it was the influence of her friends, or if it was something deeper within her. "I think you know exactly what you need to do," I said, my voice cold, much colder than I wanted it to be. "You need to choose. You need to choose between me and them. Because I'm not going to keep standing here, waiting for you to decide if I'm worth your time." She was quiet for a long time after that. Too long. I thought she might hang up, or say something that would push me even further away. But then, she said something I wasn't expecting. "I can't lose you," Eliza whispered. "But I can't lose them either. I don't know how to balance it anymore. I thought I could have both. I was wrong." Her words hit me harder than I could have anticipated. I wanted to be angry, to to scream at her for not understanding how much pain she had caused me. But I couldn't. Instead, I felt a strange mixture of pity and sadness. "You've already made your choice," I said quietly, almost to myself. "And now I have to make mine." Another long silence stretched between us. I wanted to hang up, to end the conversation and walk away for good. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the years we had spent together, or maybe it was just the part of me that still cared. But I stayed on the phone, listening to the silence, to the uncertainty in her voice. "I don't want to lose you," she said again, her voice cracking. "Then you need to prove it," I replied, my heart heavy. "I need to see that you're willing to stand up for me. Not for your friends. Not for some twisted game. For me. That's the only way I'll believe that we have a chance." I hung up the phone before she could respond. It felt like a finality, but I wasn't sure if it was the right one. I had drawn a line in the sand, and now I had to wait to see if she would cross it. But deep down, I knew one thing. Even if she came back, even if she begged for my forgiveness, things would never be the same. Once trust was broken, it was almost impossible to rebuild. And that was the hardest pill to swallow. The days dragged on, each one heavier than the last. I didn't hear from Eliza. She didn't text. She didn't call. I almost started to believe that maybe I was right, that she had made her choice. And that choice wasn't me. It was Friday when I finally got a message. My phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me out of the haze of my thoughts. I glanced at the screen, my heart sinking as soon as I saw her name. I debated ignoring it. Maybe that was the right thing to do, to keep my distance. But something inside me made me open the message. "I'm sorry for everything. I need to see you. Please. We can't let it end like this." I stared at the words. My stomach twisted into knots. I didn't know what I wanted from her anymore. Apologies? Explanations? Or was I just desperate to see if there was anything left worth salvaging? I took a deep breath and replied, typing out each word slowly, almost cautiously. "I don't know if we can fix this. I need you to be honest with me. What do you really want?" The message felt like a test. I wasn't sure if I was testing her or if I was just afraid of hearing the truth. I didn't expect her to respond right away, but she did. My phone buzzed almost immediately. "I want you. I've always wanted you. But I got lost. I let them influence me, and I made a mistake. I was weak. I need you to give me a chance to make it right." Her words hit me, but they didn't feel like they used to. I couldn't ignore the doubts creeping in, the gnawing feeling that something wasn't quite adding up. Was she really sorry? Or was she just saying the right things because she realized what she stood to lose? "I need more than words, Eliza." I typed back, my fingers shaking slightly. "I need actions. You need to show me that you're willing to stand up for us. For me." The message sat there for a long time, and just when I thought she wouldn't reply, another one popped up. "I will. I'll do whatever it takes. Please, just let me show you." I stared at the screen, conflicted. Was I supposed to believe her? Had she really changed? Could I trust her again after everything that had happened? I didn't know, but part of me still wanted to. Part of me wanted to believe that love was enough to heal the wounds. But another part, an increasingly large part, was telling me to walk away and never look back. I put my phone down and leaned back against the couch, the weight of it all pressing down on me. I didn't want to make a rash decision, but I knew that this moment would define everything going forward. And deep down, I wasn't sure if I was strong enough to face the truth. The following day felt endless. I tried to distract myself, but no matter what I did, my thoughts kept returning to her message. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the edge of something massive, something that could either break me or change everything. As evening came, I received another text. "I'm outside." My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't expected her to come in person, but here she was. There was a part of me that wanted to run, just leave, get in the car, and drive away from it all. But another part, the one I couldn't control, pulled me toward the door. When I stepped outside, there she was, standing at the bottom of the stairs, looking uncertain but desperate. Eliza's hair was a mess, her eyes puffy as if she'd been crying. The woman who stood before me was different from the one I knew, broken, fragile, but still the woman I once loved. "I couldn't stay away," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't say anything right away. I just looked at her, taking in the weight of everything. How had we gotten here? How had things come to this point? "You've got one chance, Eliza," I finally said, the words coming out heavier than I meant them to. "One chance to show me that you're really sorry and that this, everything, wasn't a lie. She nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. I won't mess this up. I swear. I know I've hurt you, but I swear to you, I'll do anything. I'll show you I'm serious. Just, please, don't walk away from me. Her plea hung in the air between us, but I couldn't decide if it was real or if she was just desperate. Was she truly regretting what happened, or was she just trying to save face? I had no answers, only questions that burned in my mind. I don't want to just hear the words, Eliza. I need to see it. You say you'll do anything. Show me. Show me you're not the person who let me down, who let us down. Her shoulders slumped slightly as she took a deep breath. I will. I promise. She stepped closer, but stopped short, unsure of what I needed from her. I've been selfish. I let everything, my friends, my insecurities, take priority over what we had. And now I know what it feels like to lose you. I don't want to lose you. For a long time, there was silence. The weight of her words pressed down on me, but the fear of being hurt again clouded my thoughts. Could I really forgive her? Could I really trust her after everything? I don't know if you can fix this, Eliza, I said, my voice raw. But you've got to prove it. I'm not just going to forgive you because you say so. I know, she whispered, her voice breaking. But I'll prove it to you. Every day. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that the woman I had married was still there beneath the mistakes, the broken promises. But a part of me was terrified that if I let her back in, I'd only end up more broken than before. For a moment, I just stood there, my eyes locked with hers, and for the first time in days, I felt something familiar, something that could have been hope. But I couldn't let that hope blind me. This was my choice, and I wasn't sure I was ready to make it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept turning over the conversation in my head, playing it over and over like a broken record. Eliza's words were still fresh, echoing in my mind. I'll prove it to you. Every day? But how could I trust her? How could I believe that the woman standing before me, the one who had humiliated me, who had let her friends tear us apart, was the same person who once promised to stand by me through everything? I kept thinking about the way she looked when she stood in front of me, so vulnerable, so desperate. She wanted to fix things. I could see that. But what if it wasn't enough? What if the damage was already too deep? By morning, I had made my decision. I needed to know the truth. I couldn't keep going in circles, stuck between my emotions and my fear. I had to confront her again, to see if she was really willing to do what it took to earn back my trust. Or was I just fooling myself, hoping for something that couldn't be fixed? I messaged Eliza, telling her to meet me at the park. I didn't want to do this in my apartment or at her place. I needed to be outside, somewhere where I could think clearly without the noise of everything else around me. When I arrived, I sat on a bench, my fingers nervously tapping on the side of my phone. I kept looking around, waiting for her to show up. It didn't take long before I saw her, walking toward me with hesitant steps. She looked different than the night before. There was a certain calmness about her, like she had finally accepted the gravity of everything. But I couldn't tell if it was real. I didn't think you'd want to see me again, she said softly, standing a few feet away. I'm here, aren't I? I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I didn't want to show her how torn I was. She nodded, and then, as if gathering her courage, she took a step forward. I've been thinking a lot about everything, about how I let things get this bad. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to interrupt her. I needed to hear her out, even if it was just to confirm what I already knew. I know I messed up, she continued, her voice shaky. And I can't keep making excuses for what happened. But I'm not the person I was last week. I swear I want to change. I want to fix this, to make things right for both of us. I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw something in her eyes, something I hadn't seen before. Was it guilt? Regret? Or was it just another act to get me back? You say you want to fix this, I said, my voice low. But how can I trust you again? How can I believe anything you say after everything that's happened? She was silent for a long moment. I could see her fighting back tears, trying to hold herself together. And then, she said something that made my chest tighten. I know I hurt you in a way I can never take back. But I can't lose you. I love you, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove that to you. The words hung in the air, heavy and uncertain. Could I believe them? Could I believe her? My heart was torn between the person I once loved and the person standing in front of me now. Could love really fix this? Or was it too late? You're asking for a second chance, I said, my voice thick with emotion. But second chances aren't given lightly, Eliza. You've broken something inside me, and I don't know if I can ever fix it. I don't know if I can ever trust you the way I used to. She stepped closer, her voice pleading. I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I'll prove it to you. Every day, I'll prove that I'm the person you fell in love with. Please, give me that chance. I stood there, torn between my anger and my love for her. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that we could get past this, that we could rebuild something beautiful. But a part of me wasn't sure if I could ever look at her the same way again. As I stared into her eyes, I realized something. This wasn't just about forgiving her. This was about me. About whether I was strong enough to let go of the past and move forward, no matter how much it hurt. I can't promise anything, Eliza, I said, my voice breaking. But I'm willing to try. For us. For what we were. Her face softened, and for the first time in days, I saw a spark of hope in her eyes. That's all I need, she whispered. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew this was the start of something. Whether it was a new beginning or the final chapter, I didn't know. But at least now, we were both trying. And maybe that was enough. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, things began to change. It wasn't immediate. There were still moments of uncertainty, moments when I would catch myself wondering if I had made the right choice. But with each passing day, Eliza showed up. She showed up in ways I hadn't expected, in the small, meaningful gestures that told me she wasn't just saying the words, but actually living them. She started cutting back on the time she spent with her friends, not because she had to, but because she wanted to prioritize us. We started talking again, really talking, about everything. The silence that had once hung between us was filled with conversation, laughter, and sometimes, even tears. It was as though we were learning to be a couple again, from the very beginning. One evening, as we sat on the couch, just the two of us, Eliza turned to me, her eyes soft. I never realized how much I took you for granted, she said, her voice sincere. I was so focused on everything else, I forgot what mattered most. I forgot what we had. I reached out, taking her hand in mine. We both made mistakes, but we're still here, and that means something. She smiled, a small, hopeful smile that made my chest tighten. I'm sorry for everything. I want to be the person you deserve. I want to make it right. I squeezed her hand, my heart swelling with emotions I couldn't quite put into words. We'll figure it out. Together. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. I believed that maybe we could rebuild what had been broken. Trust wasn't something that could be regained overnight, but we were working on it. We were both willing to put in the effort, and that was what mattered most. As the weeks went by, we found ourselves falling back into a rhythm. It wasn't perfect, there were still bumps along the way, but we were learning to navigate them, together. Eliza didn't expect immediate forgiveness, and I didn't expect perfection. But we had something stronger now, understanding. And one evening, as we sat at the kitchen table, laughing over dinner, Eliza looked at me with that same smile that had once stolen my heart. I love you, she said, her voice filled with so much warmth. I love you too, I replied, my heart full. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was ours. We had both made mistakes, but in the end, we had chosen each other. And that, I realized, was enough. In that moment, I knew we were stronger than we had been before. And as we moved forward, one day at a time, I understood something important. Sometimes, love isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up, together.